Welcome back to Blow Up the Team podcast. Uh, Tonight, as it is 2:40 in the morning and we're just getting started, we will be doing. I'm going to be doing a draft recap for the Baltimore Ravens, and Matt is doing.
Fuck all.
Okay, what's the
No,
video
okay.
that's coming out later? Plug your video that's coming out later. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Baltimore Orioles, the most exciting team in the MLB. I think they're real contenders this year.
I hear the sarcasm dripping from your voice.
Yeah, you're gonna get like this. Actually, yeah, it's like we're sitting in Baltimore. It's like, eh, it's like what's there to talk about? You'll see in my video what there is to talk about.
All
Like
right.
me, I think I've labeled out three bright spots in a field of sadness. Like
So,
Gary Cohn wishing he was still announcing Yankee games.
do we know what we do tomorrow? I don't remember what tomorrow's video are.
Got the
Uh,
Excel sheet right here. Tomorrow we go to Buffalo and Toronto.
Buffalo and Toronto. Well, you go to Buffalo and Toronto. I go Buffalo and Carolina, I think. Unless I.
No, like tomorrow you're doing Buffalo, I'm doing Toronto.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Thursday I'm doing Toronto, and then Friday I'm doing the Cardinals.
And I'm doing the Carolina Panthers. So that's the schedule for the rest of the week. Um, yeah. Really quickly. There seemed to be a lot of contention on the at my Arizona Cardinals video that came out on Monday. And that is why the format for these have changed and it's become longer and much more in depth. So you can expect probably sometime this weekend. I'm gonna remake the my Cardinals recap and go more in depth and explain kind of what was going on, just to give them a fair shake as compared to what we're doing for the rest of the teams here. So, but I think we've covered all of our notes. Feel free to comment anything down below that you'd like to see us do in the future. Make sure to subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out our Discord and all that'll be down in the description below. But let's go ahead and get this started. Now, the Ravens draft for me, as I started looking more and more into it, just kept getting more and more interesting as I looked into it. Simply because they were 14-2, obviously one of the best teams in the league last year already. Um, with Lamar Jackson having just an insane season for them. And honestly, there were a lot of favorite picks for them to make the Super Bowl just based on how they were playing leading up to the playoffs until Derrick Henry happened. But
Until Derrick Henry happened.
uh,
I
that
will
man,
say though, I watched the whole game. I'm blanking on the Ravens coach right now. Hold on.
is that John Harbaugh
Yeah, yes, and then
or
the
Jim? I don't remember
Titans
if it's
coach.
John or
Yeah,
Jim.
no, it's John. Jim is the I think it's Michigan,
Yeah, it's John Harbaugh. Okay.
and then the like he just got entirely outcoached by Mike Vrabel. Like just every play that they made in that game, like every single play, just nothing they could do. There was no chance. Like it's just they knew every play that was coming. It was just such a perfect game play by Titans. I know it's like old news. And I will say my proudest achievement of the last year's football season was the hashtag I survived Lamar. It was
I
at
survived Lamar.
it's like he put up like 50 points or something. Or he put up some ridiculous amount of fantasy points as per
Oh,
usual.
really
It,
quickly, did you see the NBA news that came out today? We're a sports channel, so I'll take a few minutes to cover or a few seconds to cover. Did you see what came out today?
I saw something about you know them playing
The yeah
potentially.
the Players Association polled their players asking if they'd be interested in a return this season, um, and in the preliminary reports are saying that they've taken significant steps towards starting back up this season. So we may have basketball to talk about soon, which would be fun.
Yeah, and since there's nothing else on, I'll actually watch it.
I'll actually have someone to talk to instead of you having to defer to me.
Well, I'll be doing more than just watching highlights, I should say.
That's valid, very valid. Um,
But yeah, and I went up against the RD in my hall. We did a league for my res hall back on campus, and it was the first round of the play. It was the second round of the playoffs, and it's like it's I beat him, I go to the finals, and there's no chance I lose, and absolutely wipe the floor with him. because the rest of his team performed like shit, and it was. And this guy had like a stacked team. Thank God for
Bro,
Cam,
my
Cam Newton, Christian
basketball is
McCaffrey.
another video. I could go off on basketball.
Yeah,
But
basketball's another video. Let's get back to
let's
the
get back to the
draft.
topic. So
Let's
Raven,
keep this speedy.
the Ravens were already one of the best teams in the league, and I don't know if maybe I'm just blind or if I've missed something big, and if I did, please point it out in the comments below. But um, they were already a very solidly well built team, and I was kind of I was looking through their roster and through their transactions. I didn't really see them lose anybody, but they made some big moves to bring in and cover for some pretty big holes. Not pretty big holes on their depth chart, but they already had talent pretty much top to bottom.
You're saying the Ravens have holes. It's like here's like a
It's
a
nitpicking.
drip.
It's
It's
nitpicking.
nitpicking. It's nitpicking. It's
It's
like
pretty big in relation to the other holes on their team, but in terms of the grand scheme of things in the NFL, they don't have any big holes. But
the Ravens
the
could
holes
run
that
that
they
same exact squad last year and probably still win 14 games. Maybe a little bit tougher since people have they're over the shock, but that team is still stacked.
their other calling it a hole is more just saying like it's not the
Inconvenience.
brightest of spots on an already extremely bright team essentially. But any Ravens fans out there, you guys should feel very excited and ready to roar for next season. Um, And I think that their draft, first of all, let me just cover really quickly some things that so if you notice defensive end was not covered in their draft, but they made other moves outside of it that filled in with two outstanding veteran ends. Derek Wolf, he didn't have, you know, he's been kind of undersung in my opinion. Since Denver went to the Super Bowl, they had that big season with Von Miller, and that defense was just absolutely disgusting. But he was kind of the unsung hero on a lot of those teams, and they went and they picked him up in free agency, which is going to be a big addition for them. They'll have seven. I mean, he had 7 sacks coming off the edge. It definitely you can see the numbers fluctuate depending on his usage, because the Broncos definitely moved him around a lot. But he definitely has potential to get pressure off the edge, which is huge. Um, and he's a proven veteran guy who will step up and he'll make the plays that you need to make. So that's a good addition. And then they also traded a fifth rounder that they had previously gotten from the Falcons for Calais Campbell, which he's been kind of one of those guys. He was in Arizona for a lot of years. I had him way back. I keep bringing up Madden 13 because that was my ultimate team was filthy that year, and he was on that team for a while. He just has always been a solid player. Um, his numbers were down a little bit sack wise in Jacksonville last year, but Jacksonville
Jacksonville's
kind of
also just like a
imploded halfway
dumpster
through
fire.
last year. Yeah, they kind of imploded.
Jacksonville, after reading with the play, just hearing about all the shit players had to deal with in Jacksonville, can you blame a player for having a bad year in
Absolutely,
Jacksonville?
absolutely not. And he had 2 great years before that, and he didn't even have a bad year. It's just the numbers were down relative to the 2 years before that. But that doesn't worry me. The whole team imploded. He's 33, so I mean he's getting a little up there in age because I mean obviously we all know the big wear and tear that players get playing in the NFL for so many years. But that's another big addition for them coming off the edge. Um, they should have pressure fairly quickly. They've got two defensive ends with a lot of experience, which is going to be great for them. And they already had a very solid team, and obviously an insanely solid team in general. But their defense had showed moments last year that they could be just as dominant as that offense could at certain moments. So um, let's get back now that I've kind of covered other moves in free agency. That's the one note here. They didn't draft a defensive end, but they covered it in other positions, so I wasn't really expecting them to step up. I mean, the only thing that they could have done would have been to select a younger guy here to kind of step into them as these guys start to get older at 30 and 33, and to kind of learn from these veterans and step up and also be a rotational piece because obviously you're gonna need like kind of fill in snaps and stuff like that, but um, that's kind of nitpicking at that point. They definitely had other needs they needed to fill, and that's where they looked in later rounds. So to start off, we got Patrick Queen at LSU. Obviously, we all know that LSU team this year, offense and defensive side of the football, was just completely loaded. They played. They had a great season, obviously. And Patrick Queen was a big part of that defense. He um, he definitely has the ability to step back in coverage, which is not something that's always found on inside linebackers, which is huge for them because again, the Ravens they like to run a lot of versatile sets, both offensive and defensive. So him being able to step around and cover is going to be important, and then also I don't think that LSU maximized his ability to rush the passer because they had that covered from other people. They didn't need him. They needed him more in pass coverage. But I definitely think he's got the potential to get to the quarterback and cause some disruption, and also uh, defending the run. Um, he's a little undersized, which I can understand people being a little worried about, but I'm not too worried about it personally. I think he's got good power, and it never really seemed. Obviously, college football is a little different, but from the little bit of college football I watched, which wasn't a lot, it never seemed like he was getting overpowered. He definitely seemed to be able to hold his own in there. So that's a great fill in for them. I would say he could even be project. Yeah, it even says down here. He projects as a day one starter. That's huge for them that they could come in and get a pick late in the first round like that, pick 28, and he steps in day one. That would be huge. So I really like this pick here for them. It fills in like I said, it fills in a hole. They'll be able to step him up early if he can adjust well to the speed of the NFL. That could be a very very impactful pick for them. Um, they have a kind of aging linebacker core, if memory serves. Sorry, I'm not the. I had it and then I clicked off of it. But let's go look to take a look at their linebackers really quickly. There's not a whole lot of guys, at least to me. Again, I'm not a huge Ravens fan. I'm just a casual kind of football fan. So, but there's no names at the linebacker position that completely jump off the page at me. Um, I know I recognize this name here. Although, oh yeah, that's why he was in Philly. That's why I recognized him.
Wait, you recognize it? Go back to that for a second.
Okay. What?
Played 4 games.
I know. Listen, man, I'm an Eagles fan. Okay. I recognize my guys.
What the hell? Yeah, like no stats for Philly. What?
Yeah, he didn't, but he had 35 tackles, 21
You're
solo
looking at the
tackles.
Baltimore stats.
I understand that. I'm saying he had a decent season last season. Two
Oh yeah, he
sacks.
did, but like I was just finding it funny. You recognize his name because he's on the Eagles. Meanwhile, you like
He didn't do
did
anything for us.
nothing.
But listen, man, you gotta rep your team. You know what I'm saying? Um, it looks like I was wrong though. They did kind of turn over the linebacker core to a lot younger base, which is good for them. They'll have room to grow as they go forward. So I stand corrected on that. But yeah, this guy right here, Patrick Queen, I think that he could be the future leader for that defense, which is big to be able to get that inside linebacker position. Um, Obviously, we saw Ray Lewis play middle linebacker for a lot of years in Baltimore, so I'm sure a lot of you Baltimore fans miss him. He was one of the legends. Um, so I'm not comparing him to Ray Lewis at all. I'm just using him as an example of how impactful an inside linebacker spot can be. Don't tell me I'm comparing him. I'm not. I'm just saying impactful position. Moving on. Um, they went J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, the second pick. Um, he was great for Ohio State. I'm a little worried about his hands. The Ravens have a lot of kind of with Lamar Jackson at your quarterback, it opens up the field a lot. It allows him to kind of get outside the pocket, make things happen, which a lot of times turns your running back into a receiver. And he didn't necessarily show the he doesn't have terrible hands, but he didn't show a natural knack for a natural knack. I guess that's double repetitive, but he's not a natural receiver, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm a little worried about his hands, and I'm worried. Not worried. I'm curious how he's going to fit in with the running back tandem they already had going on with Gus Edwards and Mark Ingram. Obviously, we all know what Mark Ingram did last season. He absolutely tore it up. But Gus Edwards also provided quality snaps for them, and so I'm wondering. I'm interested to see if how he'll work in with those two guys in terms of snaps. If they'll get rid of if maybe they'll look to trade maybe Gus Edwards and have Dobbins fit in or how that will work. But um, Edwards is the number two back. That's not what I wanted to click. Um, 711 yards from your number two back. that's pretty solid numbers. I mean, you already had a what it was Mark Ingram at 1,100 yards last season, something like that. So, you know, a lot of work already being attributed to those two guys. I'm interested to see how they'll be able to fit in Dobbins into that, but 1,000 yards, my mistake. But I'm curious to see how he'll fit in there. Very solid pick for them. I like it. I'm just a little concerned about his hands. He's gonna have to have put in some reps with Lamar and make sure that they're gonna be on the same page. Um, Third pick, they went defensive tackle. Makes sense for them. They needed somebody to kind of plug up the middle. He is a little undersized from what I was able to find online, but he's got good strength and quickness. I'm interested to see how he'll be able to stack up against some of the bigger interior linemen, big guards and centers, and he was able to kind of like utilize that strength against a lot of college players and kind of overwhelm them, even if he was a little undersized. But that's not going to be as likely to happen in the NFL. So he's definitely going to have to rely on a lot of hand fighting ability, which obviously will come with time. So being able to plug up the middle is going to be important for him at a little undersized. I don't dislike the pick. I definitely think it has potential, but it's going to have to be one of those things where we have to wait and see how that plans out. He was good for Texas A&M. Don't get me wrong. I would be interested to see if he maybe moves to defensive end at some point, because of the fact that he's a little undersized and he's got pretty good quickness to get around that edge. So that wouldn't surprise me if they experiment with moving him around, maybe moving him to defensive end for a few snaps if one of those two veterans that I brought up earlier, Derek Wolfe or Calais Campbell, had to take a few snaps off. Moving down, this is the pick that I actually kind of highlighted as I felt like they did a really good job with this pick here. Devin Duvernay, I suck with names, out of Texas. Um, he added depth at wide receiver, which we already know that offense was explosive, but star name wise, they don't have a ton at the wide receiver position. I know Willie Snead has been there for a lot of years. Um, D'Anthony Thomas, like a lot of those guys, they all fit the system, right? Marquise Brown, obviously, they all fit the system. They all work well, and they've also got insane production out of the tight end, Mark Andrews. Unfortunately, did lose Hurst. I think Hurst was his last name. Um, and I think that was the Falcons trade. Was that they lost the tight end. So, but Mark Andrews was insanely productive for them. So I might not be right about that Falcons trade, but I don't want to waste time looking it up. But they do have a productive. Nick Boyle showed some promise last year as well, so they will have a productive, you know, two tight end tandem. And then wide receiver, they've already got a few young guys in there. Like I brought up, Anthony Thomas. He was supposed to be. I remember that he's been in the league for years, but he just never really became what he was supposed to be. Genuinely, like I don't know, he kind of got lost in Kansas City in my opinion, um, with all the firepower they had out there. And I'm curious to see. He's a little undersized at 5'8". I'm curious to see if Baltimore will actually try to, if he's just there as a depth chart filler, or if they're actually going to try to uh, fit him into the offense. It's going to be interesting to see. But I really like their pick with Devin here. I'm going to call him Devin, not because we're on a first name basis, but because that last name is oof. Do you have a feeling on that last name? Can you pronounce the last name?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, he adds depth, obviously, which is something that they're gonna need. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up here. This highlight video of his. Oh my God, the quality of ESPN's, man. There you go. Um, he adds depth. He's built almost like a running back, and if you watch the way that he sees the field on a couple of the trick plays, if you go back and you watch some of his highlights, he almost sees the field like a running back, which is interesting to me. But he reads blocks well, and I would be interested to see if this could become like a Ty Montgomery situation. If you remember what happened with him in Green Bay, where he was initially drafted as a wide receiver, but ultimately wound up making a transition to running back. Over in Green Bay. I would be interested to see if they don't experiment with him out of the backfield on a few snaps, just based on it. He's always, it just seems like he's always looking for contact. He's not afraid of it. Like I said, it's almost like he's built like a running back. So he's got good quickness. He ran his 40 time. I was curious because watching that video specifically, it didn't really seem like he hit that second gear, but I guess he has what they like to call deceptive speed. He ran a 4.440 flat. So he's definitely got some top end speed. He's got a little bit of a smaller he's a little bit smaller, which is another reason why I was thinking maybe you could potentially see a move to running back, but we've definitely seen guys at 5'11 be productive before. But all right, so that was a little tragic. I have a Logitech G933, which is a wireless headset, and it cut off because I wasn't hearing anything for 5 minutes because Matt was just letting me go off on my rant.
Yeah,
Um,
my mistake, I guess. Like, I
that's not
mean,
your mistake. You didn't know. I just was just on a roll. I was actually
like, what kind
staying
of
on
bullshit
topic.
headset doesn't make like obnoxious noises when it's trying to like shut
So
off?
so
Like,
here I'll actually bring up my hub thing here. Um, you can even see in the where's the thing? Oh, it's in the settings somewhere. Every five, like if I, the sleep timer is 5 minutes, so if there's no sound played into the headset for 5 minutes, it automatically shuts off. But it doesn't count in the fact that I could be inputting stuff during that time. So I normally, that sleep timer doesn't come into effect as long as it's plugged in, but I didn't have it plugged in because it was basically full battery. And so it kind of cut off. Thankfully, uh, between the two of us, we realized it fairly quickly. And so we're back. But back to what I was finishing up talking about Devin Duvernay up here, and I was just saying I really like the pick. I think he'll be a versatile piece that they can fit into that offense. Um, he's got that top end speed, so he could definitely kind of move around the field if they need him to. And again, I'm repeating myself because I don't remember what I can't exactly tell what got cut off and what didn't, but I wouldn't be surprised given the fact that he doesn't seem to have like the greatest of hands if you see him move to um excuse me, they call him a natural hands catcher, but he's not a complete or fluid route runner. So if route running is just something that doesn't pan out for him, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get kind of used in the backfield as a decoy or jump around the field a little bit. With in the NFL, if you can't, if you it sometimes gets hard to create that separation without that elite route running ability. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. But jumping down here to another inside linebacker, Malik Harrison. Um, he's a good run stopper and a decent pass rusher, but he seems to lack the ability to drop back in coverage. Um, it seems as if he just has a nose for the football. He seems to find his way through and just come up and make plays. Um, the You'll see here in a second, he does make like on this play right here. That's a pretty good read, but it looks like a pretty simple coverage decision for him, and the route wasn't run great. So in the NFL, that route could be run a lot harder of a cut, and he could lose the coverage a little bit. This play right here was actually one that I wanted to focus on. It's actually if you see him, he makes a great read right here. His eyes are where they need to be. He's watching the running back out of the backfield. He makes the quick stunt here, but he recovers, not recovers, but he makes the correct read to make sure he gets out to the running back in the flat. If he can continue to develop this skill to be able to read the offense and be where he needs to be in pass coverage, he could become another asset in the inside of that linebacking core. Uh, for the Ravens. But this right here is a great read. He comes up, he sees the it looks like it's going to be a slant, and he steps up to cover that. And once he sees that guy plant his foot, his eyes why did it jump? But his eyes shift to the running back. ESPN's player is a little questionable, man. But his eyes right here. He's shifted his eyes to the flat. He sees the running back going out to the flat, and he's right there to make the tackle before the guy has a chance to go anywhere. So that's a good read for him. If he can continue to develop that skill, that could be a huge pickup for them on the inside of that linebacking core, especially as you kind of got into the third round there. So I like the pick. He's gonna need to be obviously brought up to speed a little bit. If he was struggling or not struggling, but if there was some questions on his ability to cover at a college level. That's going to be even more apparent at a pro level. So, but if he can get brought up to speed on that, um, he's got the intangibles. So he's I mean 6'3", 250, and he's got some speed, and he could be a big part of that linebacking core with, again, another young guy, Patrick Queen, that I brought up earlier. These two guys, I could see them working together and creating a if he can develop in pass coverage, these two guys I could see working very well together for years to come. So I definitely like that pick. And then I am going to skip a couple guys here. I can't go into depth on every single one. I did cover a lot of guys here because there was a lot of picks that I liked from the Ravens. I'm not going to focus a whole lot on the picks I don't like because all these young guys, they have potential. They all have talent. So I'm going to pick out the ones
You're
that.
focusing on the big ones that are going to be like, impact players next year, not like everyone who can develop into what they can be.
Exactly. So if there's somebody that catches my eye, I'm gonna bring them up, obviously. Other than that, I might just breeze over a couple of guys just because they were important depth chart fillers. Like, for example, Ben Bredeson here out of Michigan. Um, he's got good size, but he's definitely gonna need some work on his positioning. He tends to get caught lurching forward a little bit towards defenders, and if you get caught off balance in the NFL, that's just not gonna go over well. So this is somebody that is gonna be a kind of a building block for them. Somebody that they're going to kind of have to fill the depth chart, and they're going to work with and you know see what his upside could be. So if there's anybody that I don't mention, it's not that I think that it was a bad pick. It's just it's not necessarily somebody that I think is personally going to have a huge impact this year. The one other guy I want to talk about, it was actually kind of a very late pick for them in the sixth round. Um, James Prochet. You have a feeling on that? How to say that last name?
I'd say Prochet. Kind of reminds me of Colin Prochet, so
All right. So
like name
James.
wise, I'm gonna go Prochet.
All right. So James Prochet. He just seems to be a natural pass catcher, but he just lacks a little bit of size. Um, and he didn't record a 40 time in the combine, and he just on the eye test, it just seems like he lacks that second gear. Um, But somebody who has natural hands like he does, and an ability to go up and make contested catches, um, that's something that is sometimes it's just natural, and they can either just go up and make the play or they can't. So where he lacks in some other aspect, why is this? Oh, thank you. Um, but this is something you can't always teach, being able to make those contested catches. A lot of times some guys, they either just have a nose to catch the football or they don't. And so um, I could definitely see him fitting in somewhere into the system. It'll be interesting to see if he just becomes kind of a depth chart filler, or if they try to work him in. um, I could see it going both ways, honestly. It could just be somebody that kind of he spends a few years kind of on the depth chart, just you know trying to find his way, or he could step up and he could become an impactful kind of player. So guys with good hands like that, they can almost always find a home somewhere in the NFL. So um, that's it for me. I think I did my best to kind of speed through it. I know I did bring up a lot here. Um,
Technical difficulties unfortunately make this longer.
well, I'll cut out the 5 minutes of silence.
Well, I
So,
mean, yeah, but
but
you know
yeah, I
what I
had to
mean.
repeat myself a little bit. But do you have anything that you want to add? I know you don't do. I do most of the
No,
research for this, and
like in the very, very limited research, it just seems like a team that, because I feel like teams sometimes they just don't draft as well. When they're on top of everything, I feel like they had a very like any team would be happy with this draft. I don't think I think they had a very solid draft. I think they did what they needed to do. I don't think this draft isn't like it's not like they lost some big piece they need to fill. Like they have all their big pieces, and now they get more big pieces to throw in the mix.
they were already 14-2, and
Exactly.
the couple of things that you could point out as weaknesses, they made a point of making sure that they go out and they fill in those spots in their depth chart. And again, you got guys like Patrick Queen, who's going to step in and probably be a day one starter for them. So I think they did a very good job drafting. again, I just they were already very good, and going out and picking up those veterans at defensive end, they didn't need to draft a defensive end. So um, this being a quote unquote need and not being drafted doesn't really worry me at all. I think they went out and they made the right decisions picking up two veterans. So draft grade, um, I think I am going to go ahead and give them. I think for me, they're borderline. Um, A minus and A. I really like their draft. I think they did a really good job. For me, I guess
Uh,
I think I'll go A. I don't really have any complaints about what they did, so I'm honestly gonna go ahead and give them a draft grade of an A. I really think that they did a good job of filling in the holes that they needed. They covered all their bases, and they've given themselves some pieces that they can look to develop as the years go on. And they've already got a very young team over in Baltimore that's performing at a very high level. So they'll definitely be a team to keep your eye on as they go forward. Not just for the players that they've already established, but some of these I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these young pieces that from this draft really step up and make an impact this year. So you have a closing remark.
um, nothing really else I could say. I mean, I think they had a great draft. They're literally nothing. This team didn't really have like their needs that they had. Like you can put air quotes around them. They checked off a lot of boxes on after already having most of the boxes checked off. So I
All
think there's
right.
not much to be said.
So I think I'm gonna go ahead and sign off then. I think I've kind of hit all the points I really wanted to hit. So with that being said, uh, make sure you leave a like and hit the subscribe button. If there's anything you'd like to see us do, or if you have any comments on what I said, go ahead and drop those in the comments down below. Make sure to check out our Discord and our the links to our Discord, our Instagram, and our Twitter are all in the description down below. Um, but yeah, other than that, I think Matt will be having a Baltimore Orioles video out later today, talking about how they're looking preseason. So keep an eye out for that. Um, otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow for I think it was the Buffalo Bills we said earlier, right? Yep, the Buffalo Bills. So anything else last second?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, with that being said, peace.